63% of the Americans live paycheck to paycheck. And what's crazy is that number includes nearly half of the six-figure earners. I mean, money is just basic math. If you have 10 apples and 10 days to eat it, you can easily ration that and have one apple a day. But why is it that we can't do the same with money? Every payday we get to restart, and every time it's the same ending. Why is money so hard to manage? This is exactly what we'll be looking at in this video. We will deep dive into the main root cause of the problem, the mindset shifts that will help you develop a better relationship with money, and obviously some simple processes to manage money efficiently from day one. So without further ado, let's dive in. Being good with money has actually very little to do with managing money itself, and interestingly, a lot to do with managing ourselves. Misinformed expectations and impulsive behavior are actually what keeps us in this vicious cycle of living paycheck to paycheck. So you need to work on yourself before everything else if you really want to fix this. And I want to be real with you. It's not going to be easy. There's a reason why such a high number of people are living paycheck to paycheck. Now, they don't really teach these things at school, so growing up we learn from our parents and people around us. And to top that, there's so many things on social media that are constantly overstimulating our impulses. So the thing here to understand is that our habits with money took years to form, so it will take some time to fix it as well. Okay, so to start, you need to be aware of your spending habits. This will reveal where you're going wrong. It's a simple step where you would be tracking and monitoring all your expenses closely. You could do this monthly or every 2 weeks, but if you have never done it, I suggest starting weekly. For example, take some time out on a Saturday, download your bank statements, and go over expenses for the week. Take time to understand if all of them were truly important. Could you have done things differently, and can any one of them be fixed? One thing that really helps is buying things with good return policies. So if you fail at controlling your impulse at the point of sale, you could decide at the end of the week to return it if the novelty has worn off or if you start regretting it. Essentially, you just want to reflect back at the entire week and learn about yourself and your spending habits. If you just do this in 6 months, you'll see a big difference in not only your spending impulse, but also discipline and overall money management. Now, you also need to educate yourself beyond these videos on YouTube. Since we get no formal education at school on how to manage our money efficiently, we need to do this ourselves for our own good. There's a ton of good books out there, and one of my favorites and really a good one to start with is The Psychology of Money by Morgan Housel. Link in the description. Generally speaking, I've seen that planning your life and goals diligently really puts this problem to bed, but it's not everyone's cup of tea. It's a lot more work, and honestly, some people prefer the spontaneity. Nevertheless, I'll make a video on how I plan everything in my life, so stay tuned if you're interested in that. Now, impulse control can be a deep psychological phenomenon, so if you see the problem is severe and bleeds into other parts of your life, I do suggest getting professional help, as it's not an easy thing to navigate by yourself. So now that we understand the root cause, let's look at a couple mindset shifts to build our relationship with money the right way. Mindset shifts will change your perspectives, which will eventually shape your personality. So the goal is to build a personality that complements effective use of money. For the most of us, money is just currency, but subliminally, it's so much more. Money shapes our identity, status, power, confidence, decisions, mood, and so much of who we are. Something that has this much control on us will always be difficult to tame. So the thing I like to do is think of it as the lowest denominator of utility and convenience. This is not a magic mantra, but it helps me think of every expense in terms of the utility and convenience it adds to my life and measure it in that way. Something might be more expensive because of the brand, but I can easily convince myself to not buy it or get a cheaper brand as long as it provides the same utility for me. This way of thinking will create a frugal mindset. And being frugal is not being cheap. It just means you'll prioritize spending money where it adds true value to your life. It enables you to be opportunistic and look for deals and discounts and gamify your expenses. Since guess what? The sellers will always be opportunistic, and all the marketing tactics out there are a way to encourage you and manipulate your desires. So this helps to counterbalance that. It also paves the way for minimalism to enter your life, which will make you more content with less and make you take the value proposition of anything you buy more seriously, resulting in an added layer of consideration during the purchase decision. Another way I like to think is of running yourself like a business. Since I've had my own business for the past 5 years, this comes quite naturally to me. Nevertheless, it's definitely a useful way to manage your finances even if you don't have a business. Essentially, the goal of a business is to be profitable. simple. So if you think in terms of that, you have income and expenses, and you just need to focus your efforts to create profit for yourself. Simple enough, but here's where it gets interesting. The need to constantly optimize your profit margin will keep you on top of both your income and expenses. You'll constantly be on the lookout for reducing any expenses, be it finding a cheaper alternative or selling things that are too expensive to maintain. You'll also be keeping an eye out for anything that is out of the ordinary and stop it from becoming a recurring expense. The other interesting thing is that people don't actively think of increasing their income the way a business does. But you totally can. Anything that adds even a few dollars a month to your income is worth contemplating over. Remember that opportunities to decrease your expenses are always going to be limited, but to increase your income, they're endless. So why not employ some of your skills and utilize the free time to add a couple more income streams? You see, these mindset shifts will not change your situation overnight, but they'll definitely help you gradually be better at managing money. All right, so now let's look at some practical steps to manage your money on a day-to-day basis. Before everything else, you need to categorize your income and expenses. A very popular method is the 50-30-20 rule, which basically states that 50% of your income should go towards needs, 30% towards your wants, and 20% towards savings. Needs are basic necessities like rent, mortgage, bills, groceries, healthcare, etc. Whereas wants will include eating out, shopping, Netflix, games, or whatever else you fancy. And then savings are, well, savings, but it also includes paying off debt and financing your future goals. Now, your current situation will not look like this, but if you create your ideal breakdown, you'll be able to know the delta or how much are you off the baseline. And it doesn't have to be 50-30-20 for you either. The goal is to create buckets and percentages that make sense to you to figure out how far you're off so that you can focus on closing that gap. That being said, the highest should always be needs or savings, and the wants should be small compared to the needs at the least. I usually like to keep the wants at a minimum, as this is where I find the easiest to be frugal. Don't worry, your life doesn't have to suck, but it shouldn't be more than what you decide to afford. Now, the most important thing here is the savings part. This is a game changer if you know how to plan it effectively. Let's look at how this can be organized. Popular notion says to pay yourself first, and this can be confusing as it doesn't mean setting aside money for you to splurge on your wants. It's basically setting aside money for your future self. So first, if you haven't already, set up an emergency fund. This should be typically 6 months of your needs, but feel free to make it 12 months or whatever you're comfortable with. Bottom line, it should be set up and at least be funded up to 6 months of your needs. After that, you should focus on paying off all kinds of debts, prioritizing the high interest ones. Living with debt makes life difficult and stressful, and I'll be honest, there's been months in the past where I had to keep my wants to a zero to maximize on paying off student loans and credit card bills. Paying off these is always a good idea. Quick side note though, super low interest or zero interest financing options don't fall in this category since they increase the cash at hand by splitting the payments over a period of time. So in my eyes, they're totally okay. Nevertheless, if you're not comfortable, you can pay those off as well. Okay, so once you've done setting up your emergency fund and started paying off your debts, and just so you know, I'm talking about contributions towards these, whether that's monthly or whatever frequency you choose. So once you decide on the contribution amount, with the remaining funds, you plan your future purchases. So a house, a car, or any big purchase that requires planning. Now, two things will happen. One, you'll always be prepared since you have saved up for it. And second, based on the contributions, you can do the math and see how long it'll take for you to save up the amount. So you'll have a more realistic idea of when you can expect to buy the thing you need. As a result, with any big purchase, you'll adopt a more I need to be prepared mindset. And since you'll be in anticipation of the date, it will teach you patience as well, both of which are essential skills for managing money. The nature of money is that it flows. So if you hold on to it, it will lose value due to inflation. So if you have done the previous steps properly, you should now think of investing. You can invest in any of your savings categories except the emergency fund for obvious reason. You need that available on a short notice. However, if you're in a position to prioritize investments, you should definitely max out your tax shelter accounts like a TFSA, or put as much as you can towards your retirement savings plans like an RSP, because that'll save you some taxes. And if your company has matched contributions, max it out as well. It's free money, so it just makes sense to do that. So now the goal of investing is to grow your money. So if you've never invested before or don't have a lot of knowledge around it, I highly suggest talking to a certified financial advisor to help you with that. I personally invest in real estate, index funds, and stocks. So let's look at these. However, I'm not a financial advisor and neither am I suggesting anything. So always do your due diligence before you choose what to invest your money in. Okay, so real estate is arguably the most efficient investment vehicle out there, but the capital requirement is too high, so it's not for everyone. Nevertheless, if you buy a property and rent it, you make rental income. It covers the mortgage and make you some extra money as well. You also make capital gain on the appreciation of the property as well. Now, if you don't have a ton of money lying around, a less capital intensive way of doing this would be to invest in REIT or real estate investment trust, which is a fund that is invested by experienced professionals to earn rental income, most of which is paid out as dividends to shareholders. You also make gains on the stock as a result of the appreciation of the properties held within the fund. Then there's index funds, which are portfolios that mimic the financial market index. For example, S&P 500, a very popular portfolio that mimics the performance of the top 500 companies in the United States. These are my favorite funds for long-term investing, as their growth is way more stable than the individual stocks out there. They're primarily equity stocks with very little cash reserve, but there's so many more funds out there that focus on variety on portfolio distribution, and your financial advisor would be able to help you choose something that fits your risk tolerance. Now, individual stocks like Google or Apple are amazing if you know what you're doing. I rarely day trade, as I prefer long-term investing, so I'll speak to that. The way I like to think about this is, if you have $1 million to invest, you would typically take out time and fund companies and teams that can grow an idea that you believe in. So why wouldn't you do the same with $100 or $1,000? Stock charts can be interesting to study, but I think it's best to invest in ideas and companies that you believe in and are emotionally connected to. If you know me, I love my tech and especially AI. So apart from some of my old stock holdings, all my recent investments are into AI companies that I love and use the products of. So yeah, these are my 2 cents, but I've been doing this for the past 10 years and I've made money and lost money. It is risky. So do your due diligence before investing in individual stocks. Okay, enough about investments. The main thing to understand here is that you would want a way to grow your money and take advantage of compound interest, which is just interest reinvested to increase the principal amount, so you earn a higher interest the next time around and the cycle goes on forever. It's an absolute no-brainer. That's all for the steps. I like to keep it simple, as I don't like complicated things that are hard to maintain. The more complicated things are, especially in the beginning, the more resistance you'll see in following the process, which defeats the purpose. Just create a simple Excel file or a Google Sheet and start tracking your income and expenses in buckets and categories. Use the same file to track your investments and growth. And quick tip here, set up automatic payments for your bills and contributions towards these things wherever you can, as it takes out the time and effort to do those yourselves on a regular basis. Small step, but has huge benefits. Set your financial goals clearly and follow it consistently, and you'll be fine. That's the essence of making any habit stick, so it's no different here. I would love it if you can share your thoughts or the Excel file that you create in the comment section below. Also, I'm always open to learning new ways, so would love to hear if you have any tips to add to this. Now, I do plan on making a part 2 where I'll share my own Excel file that I've been working on and tweaking for the past 15 years. However, I think if you understand the process clearly and create your own, it will always be the best one for you and the easiest one for you to follow. Nevertheless, if you're interested, stay tuned for that. Also, like and subscribe if you found this valuable, and share with others if you think it'll help them as well. That's all, guys. Remember, the only way to permanently change the temperature in your room is to reset the thermostat. So in the same way, the only way to change your level of financial success permanently is to reset your financial thermostat. But it is your choice whether you choose to change. Good luck, everyone, and I'll see you on the next one.